All right, last one for the four of us here has to do with the BBC over in the UK, which posed a question recently online, and we're going to show you in the headline. Does Justin Trudeau apologize too much? So our Prime Minister getting ink across the pond in the UK. This is a claim that some of the Prime Minister's critics have been making for a while now on social media and elsewhere, that he apologizes too often on too many different things. Let me start with you on this. Colin McDonald, what do you think?
To me, this is a really strange one. I think, first of all, these official apologies, for the most part, are incredibly meaningful to the communities and the victims or survivors, relatives of victims, to whom they're directed. They come about after typically quite a bit of dialogue and quite a bit of discussion, and often quite a bit of time has passed. And this notion that there is somehow a number that is the appropriate number, and that perhaps we should say to some community or a group of survivors somewhere that we can't be apologizing to you right now because we did 2 this year, and 2 really is our only number, the most that we can do in one given year. It just seems like a really strange one to me. This government, this Prime Minister has made it known that they believe that one of the things that the government of the day can do is, where appropriate, issue an apology for actions of previous governments, and I imagine they will continue to do so.
But this is something that people have raised, as you know. Some people think that it's going too far. Tom Parkin, your read.
Well, Todd, actually, I think that Mr. Trudeau hasn't apologized enough. I mean, he hasn't apologized for his infrastructure plan getting infinitely delayed. He never apologized for betraying his promise on electoral reform. And I could go down the list of things that Justin Trudeau said he would do, isn't doing, and seems to have no apology to Canadian people. Now, on this particular thing, what we're talking about is apologies from long ago past. And I think in a mature country that has taken a good look at its history in the last few years, I think it's pretty rare that we don't look to our own past as individuals or as a country and say there were mistakes made, things that we don't feel good about, and that we'd want to make an apology for. That seems to me like a normal part of being a country that is true about its own history. I don't have any problem with that.
Jamie Ellerton, what's your read?
Yeah, I think when you see some of the critics come forward here in this kind of constant air of apologizing, when Justin Trudeau says things like we're the first post-national country, and it kind of undermines any kind of sense of Canadian patriotism, I think people find that offensive. But when you look at these historical injustices, in my previous role working for Minister Kenney, when the Harper government apologized for the Chinese head tax, when you see the raw emotion still this many decades later as to what that apology meant to them and their families, and when you look, I was also in the House when Prime Minister Trudeau apologized for the treatment of LGBT public servants this past November. So these things are very moving, and they are righting an historic wrong. And I think it's good that as a country we can talk about them, talk about the history openly, be proud of what unites us as Canadians, but also learn from past wrongdoings as past governments did and kind of go forward with this. But I think when the Prime Minister Trudeau kind of wades into the more contemporary domestic political issues and is essentially apologizing for Canada and looking to kind of reshape the country in his own image while telling people what they have to say and attest to when they apply for summer jobs forms, it's stuff like that conflates these issues and kind of, I think, fuels the sentiment as to what you see here online speaking out on things like this.
Great to have the three of you with us today, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Anytime, Todd.
Thank you.
Jamie Ellerton, Colin McDonald, and Tom Parkin.